Paltrocast.
Toby, thank you for taking the time. Good afternoon. How's your day going aside from having to do press where you answer the same questions over and over and over again?
Oh, it's been great. Amazing day today. We were working at the Tower Bridge. We're in London at the moment, and with my two co-workers, we just decided to set up camp right there by the river and work from there for a couple hours. That was really beautiful. I love London, and the summer has been really cold and rainy, but coming from Los Angeles, I appreciate that.
I said good afternoon because I thought you were in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles, Munich, London, you're everywhere. That's what I understand.
Yeah, the summers we're gonna do more and more in London. London is such an incredible town and city, and the potential here, and somehow how my work's perceived. I've been doing shows here, been playing at Palladium. It was incredible, and a few other shows. Really love the energy here.
So we're connected not just because you're a legend who everyone has heard the songs of a trillion times, but because you have a new album. How long was it from going, I want to do this album, to actually finishing it?
That was about a 1 year process. And before we started that, maybe half a year of contemplating what this could look like. And I really wanted to, well, let's say some of my songs, they're still on the radio, but I felt I wanted to hear them in a new way. When I write songs, quite often I write them with piano vocal, and I really wanted to give the listeners the experience of just a vocal and a piano. And I felt like re-recording all of my bigger songs that have resonated with the people in timeless versions with just piano vocal and a little bit of classic instrumentation. And so we started with Big Girls Don't Cry with Victoria Justice end of last year and released that. And Kelly Clarkson invited us to her show, and we got to perform it there. Got a lot of great press. And so we were encouraged then with the next single, Skyscraper, with Camilio, a Universal Republic artist. And then we did Little Do You Know, which is one of my TikTok hits, with Kiki Palmer and Aloe Black. That was nice. And then we did Untouched with Canadian TikTok sensation Johnny Orlando. And then from there on, Who You Are with Louisa Johnson, the youngest X Factor winner in the UK.
Right.
She's amazing on it. It's my Jessie J song. And then my Beyonce song, If I Were a Boy, with 18-year-old Angelina Jordan. And she is just incredible. What a singer.
So sorry to rudely interrupt you here. I mean, amazing names, only 8 songs on this record, though. And you obviously have had a lot more than 8 songs. I know about the days of Milli Vanilli, Deck, or all this kind of stuff. How did you pare down those 8 songs? Because again, there's more than 8 hits.
There is more, and I will definitely work on a deluxe record now. So eventually this is going to be a 12 to 14 song album. And the funny thing is, I hadn't planned this, but during the release of these songs, I became an independent artist and performer. I've been on stage now so many times with various artists I've worked with in the past and just say, do you want to perform with me? And so I've done these shows with a number of different artists singing different songs of mine, and I'm on the piano, and we have a cellist or a violinist, and it's been such a blast. So this transformation from being a songwriter and producer now to being on stage and telling the stories of Madonna and the stories of Beyonce and John Legend and everyone, it's so much fun. I never expected that to happen.
Yes. So speaking of that, when I was a kid, one of the first producers I really noticed, because when you're a kid, you just listen to the radio and you go, that's a song, I like that song. And you don't really think about who wrote it, who produced it, that it's the same session players, etc. So I remember learning about David Foster when I was a kid. And in recent years, David Foster has been doing his kind of tours where it's piano based, and he'll bring out Ruben Studdard or his wife Catherine, etc. Do you see yourself eventually having your own headlining tour, not just being a special guest?
Yeah, 100%. And I was texting with David Foster 3 weeks ago and told him that he's an inspiration to me, and that I could really see myself doing what he does. He was in Manila doing a show with 5,000 people in the audience with Catherine and a few local artists. And I love the idea of going around the world featuring local talent on your known songs and then bring a few singers along. He's been a great inspiration there were maybe 12 years ago, David Foster called me out of the blue and
Mhm.
said, "Hey, do you want to come up to my house? Bring your wife and your kids and let's hang out." And that was the nicest weekend, Saturday afternoon we had together. It was really special. So I appreciate David Foster.
So the name of this record is Piano Diaries. Do the songs always get written on the piano? The reason I ask that is in having managed songwriters, I know that sometimes in the writer's room, this is the top line person, and this is the beats person, and this is the person who doesn't play an instrument and is just the vibes, good vibes person to get people talking. I know there's people who've had success doing that. But in this case, are you always the piano person?
I would say half of my songs were written on the guitar, like Big Girls Don't Cry or If I Were a Boy, I wrote on the guitar. But all of me, very much a piano song. And also, I was trying to kind of reinvent the arrangement
Mhm.
on all of these songs, trying to find piano accompaniments that can work. Like if you listen to Untouched, for instance, it took me maybe 100 passes of trying to find piano that, in my opinion, brings a novelty value to this composition and that makes it work. And I finally found all these arpeggios, and I'm really happy with how it came out now, but it was a long, long process to get to this place.
Was there a process for you to learn how to be an on-stage performer? Because all I know about you was you were originally a writer studio person, and that led to more writer things. In other words, I don't know about you being a cover band person. I don't know about you being a metal person. I just always know about you having cuts.
Yeah, and that's how it was. And then 2 years ago, Casey, or 3 years ago, Casey Abrams, I had a song with him that was a single called Simple Life. After he came off American Idol, I think he was fourth or fifth on American Idol.
Mhm.
He's such an incredible talent on the stand-up bass, and he sings really well. And he asked me one day, "Hey, do you want to play two songs with me in the hotel cafe?" And I did. And that kind of also made me think, wow, I love being on stage. I love performing songs I've written, and the audience likes it too. And funny enough, yesterday, Casey Abrams sold out the Jazz Cafe in Camden in London, 550 people, which, considering he has an LA audience, it was the first time that he, as a solo artist, is touring now in the UK. And
Yeah.
getting 550 people to pay a ticket for him in that beautiful venue in Camden, that was special. And I played 3 songs with him. We played All of Me, and the audience pretty much sang the entire song. It was really special.
Well, before you started performing live so much, you had the blessing of being kind of anonymous, where people knew your name, but they didn't really know what you looked like. Did you have
Uh-huh.
any hesitation towards giving that up? In other words, if you were in CVS and your song
Yeah.
comes on, you would go, "Ha, that's my song." But no one would knew that was you. And you're kind of giving that up by doing this album.
Well, in America and in England, I'm not there where people would recognize my face. But in Germany, I was a judge for 2 years, no, for one year, 2 years ago, on German Idol, which is called DSDS, Deutschland sucht den Superstar. And there was a lot of television. We did 18 primetime Saturday night television shows that were 2 to 3 hours long. And it in Germany, German Idol is still a bigger deal than it is in America at the moment, where it's like a weekday show. It was full on Saturday night. Some and the shows towards the end, the live shows were 4 hours long, like real spectacle with live
Wow.
band and everything. And then I got to do. They filmed a documentary about my life. I got to release a book about my life in German. And so in Germany, it does happen that I walk the street and people want to take a photo.
But you gave that up by moving to LA, and I would assume, but now that you're touring, your face is going to be on the posters.
Well,
So
not touring yet. That's in the stars. But I would say David Foster is definitely a great inspiration for that. And David Foster, I think I don't know, he's over 70 years old, I think, and he is still touring and
mhm.
still having an audience everywhere. If I can have that in 20 years, amazing. I would love that.
So you like the idea of touring and traveling the world.
Oh, I would love that. It's the best feeling if people around the world know your songs and want to sing your songs. I love that. It's full circle.
Yeah, well, I find that's the exact opposite for a lot of hit makers. A lot of hit makers take the Brian Wilson approach of you come to me, we write it home, and they're kind of cut off. Have you always been a sociable person?
I've always loved stage, and I've always loved the social interactions and um, just all the communication. Every song I write is always a collaborative process. Usually I don't write too many songs with the same artist. It's always been one or two songs with an artist, three, four. Rarely did I want to do the whole album with an artist. Like with Madonna, okay, I was 5 weeks in the studio and we did 13 songs. Or with Leona Lewis, I ended up doing the entire album. But for the most part, I do 3, 4 songs, maybe just one song, and move on to the next, because every artist, it's that first time magic feeling when you see an artist and you talk with each other for the first time and you get inspired, you figure them out, and quite often that leads to a great song.
Is there ever writer's block for you?
Not much, no. I don't know, it's a terrible word, but I usually always come out with a song at the end of the day. I can't say it's always a good song. Sometimes you have to write 100 bad songs to get to this one magical one, and that's kind of the painful part, that there's so many songs that will never see the light of day, and some of them you're attached to, but not everything is meant to be heard.
When you like do a song, it doesn't make the cut. Does it just go permanently discarded into that pile, or is there a chance you might revisit it and retool it in the future?
Well, big part of the inspiration for doing Piano Diaries was really to establish kind of my name as a brand. So moving forward for Piano Diaries Volume 2, I can self-release original songs. And so starting September, October, we are starting Piano Diaries 2, where we're going to release originals. And it's the same pattern that we do a piano vocal version that is stripped down, intimate, timeless, but then we also attach an artist version that is contemporary and sometimes remixes, dance mixes, and so on.
Wow. Another thing that I notice when you have somebody at your level, and I'm the one calling you a high-level person, not you, is that they have sub-writers. They have people that also bring them songs that they finalize. Do you have a writer's team under you as well?
No. And I mean, as opposed to Dr. Luke, for instance, he early on saw the value in accumulating a lot of writers and producers around him. And for me, my first big hit, Big Girls Don't Cry with Fergie, was a 50-50 co-write. And somehow in my mind, I always thought I have to do everything 50-50, which was actually quite a handicap, because teamwork is sometimes so much better, but there's something to be said for each scenario. My biggest songs were 50-50s, like All of Me with John Legend, or If I Were a Boy. A lot of these songs, it's just the artist and me writing a song together, and that way it becomes very intimate and very personal to the artist. Whereas if you have more writers in the room, it can't be personal to all of them. Like everyone throws something into the pot, and it becomes sometimes a pretty generic song.
The phrase I've heard is change a word, get a third. When you have that third writer in the room who just changes 1 or 2 words and suddenly they have a third of the publishing, but not in Toby land.
No, just sit in the room and then later on claim a third. That has happened too.
Yeah, so that's fantastic to see that the work ethic is still there. You haven't slowed down, that you're growing the brand, that we're going to get a volume 2, that touring might be on the horizon, etc. When you're not busy with music, what's the main hobby besides family? For example, are you a secret skier or a golfer or anything like that?
Well, I clearly have a big love affair with the Pacific Ocean, and it's like I like kiteboarding, I like stand-up paddleboarding, downwind paddleboarding, which, like for instance, we go 10 miles down the coast when it's windy on windy days, from let's say from Point Dume to the lagoon in Malibu. That's a 3 to 4 hour paddle. And if you have the wind in your back, it pushes you, and the coast is like a crescent. So halfway, you're like almost a mile out in the ocean. And that on stand-up paddleboards, then you have suddenly 50 dolphins come by, and the sea life is just unbelievable. And the colors you see out there when the sun sets or rises. And surfing, of course. I love surfing very much.
So you do the computer world through your songwriting, and then you decompress with nature and family.
Yes, and now in London, I'm always on these bicycles. They have these Lime Uber electric bicycles on every corner, and a lot of streets in London have been made safe for bicycles. They have these super highways going through London everywhere. And you want to go somewhere, you look at the maps, and the bicycle is always the fastest option.
Agreed. Same here in New York. Well, two quick questions, and then I let you go. Ready for these easy softball questions that have nothing to do with the piano, diaries, the hits being great. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. First one, what's the last concert that you went to as a fan, just because enjoyment of music?
Well, yesterday, Casey Abrams, I went to as a fan. I mean, I did end up playing 3 songs with him, but for the most part, I watched him as a fan. And he is such an incredible musician, like playing the bass, singing, all that is just second nature. Most of all, you see him having fun with music, being above the musicianship. And aside from being an extremely gifted jazz musician, just being a person who loves music, and it's infectious, and everybody in the room ends up loving music and singing along. And what an incredible performer. Casey Abrams, I love him.
Sure. The last question, you are from the great country of Germany, which produced many, not just great dance artists, but many of my favorite metal artists came out of Germany. Were you ever a metal head, a metal performer, anything metal related?
I was not, no. I love AC/DC. That's kind of the former part of metal. I think nowadays metal is a lot harder than it used to be back then. But no, I never performed metal music or wrote it.
So the Scorpions never said, hey, please co-write a song with us?
They did not, no.
Well, maybe in the future. But Toby, thank you for the decades of great music. Excited to see that Volume 2 of Piano Diaries is a thought, and hope to eventually see you play live here in New York.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Paltrocast.